You're listening to Adapt and Thrive, a survival guide for the modern marketer, with hosts Tom and Kate. Your survival guide begins now.
Hello, we got Mackenzie and Tom today. Adapt and Thrive, a survival guide for the modern marketer. Mackenzie's sitting in for Kate, who's anxiously awaiting her new arrival. She's out on maternity. We've got Maeve, right? Maeve?
Yep.
Coming in.
Very exciting.
Coming into the world stage probably in the next day or two.
Yeah.
So that is exciting.
Soon.
All right. Today we're going to talk about a TikTok. I guess we could say everything you wanted to know about TikTok, but we're afraid to ask. So, Mackenzie, you're the expert here. I'm going to be, weighing in. I've been swept up by TikTok, and I'm now an avid TikTok user. I would say this happened about a year ago.
Yeah, I am very excited to talk about this. It was one of those things where when it came out a couple years ago, it felt like it was embarrassing. It was just for Gen Z, but now we're all obsessed with it. So they got us.
They really did, and our agency is very, very much integrated into TikTok usage, both organically and with paid advertising. And it is interesting the trajectory TikTok is taking and some of the pushback it's getting. Mm-hmm. So let's go into some of the statistics from TikTok, because I think most listeners would be astounded at how fast it's proliferated.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the most interesting ones is that people spend an hour and a half a day on TikTok. And
Guilty
yep.
is charged.
Personally, I don't want to know. I feel like it's between me and the Chinese government, but
Right.
I don't want to know how much time I'm spending on there, but it has to be at least an hour and a half just because the algorithm is so good.
Is that what it is? I don't know. I haven't broken it down to that level, being an algorithm, but whatever it is, it's feeding me stuff that I'm very interested in. It's giving me tips on my golf swing. It's also talking about, new workout regimens if you're over 50. It's just cool. And every now and then I get a really cool animal video. Just saw a guy, fisherman, save a hawk that was tangled up and was gonna die in some fishing line, and it was pretty cool. But that was 3 minutes of my life.
Yep. You'll never get it back.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy the things you end up watching and people's stories about their lives and the drama and all of these things that you end up just getting really sucked into.
So 150 different countries. It's in 75 different languages. It's been it's surpassed 1 billion monthly active users, and what's the number? 180 million users in the U.S. Is that what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. We have quite a few users in the U.S., but it's interesting. We'll get into this later, but not all of them are consumers or purchasers on the app. It's much more engagement and kind of watching the content for entertainment. So it's different than some of our other social media channels.
So from strengths in a marketing program, what would you kind of earmark it for? How would you use it in your marketing?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think that a lot of people think TikTok is just instant conversions. It's really easy. People will just buy whatever they trust on the app, but that's actually not true. And TikTok, for the average business, is much better for engagement and getting comments and likes and visits to the website. You can get clicks for a very, very cheap amount, but it's much harder to get conversions on the app. So usually I recommend it for clients who are just working on brand awareness, letting people know they're out there, getting people to the website, kind of those initial first steps of new audiences, but not necessarily brands that are looking for just immediate conversions.
Right. Okay. Let's go through some of these other statistics, because I think they're amazing when you start comparing it to Instagram and some of the other channels that we use.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that it does have a lot more engagement than any of our other platforms. So for influencers in particular, they are very popular on TikTok. However, they also come under more scrutiny on TikTok. So people really, really want to see authenticity and relatability on TikTok as opposed to feeling like they're being fed something.
Yeah, and this stat is really astounding. I was trying to get to this earlier. The engagement rate on TikTok is nearly 6% compared to Instagram, which is 1.4. That's a factor of 4 times as much engagement.
Right.
More than 4 times. That's astounding.
Almost 6 times. Yeah. Yeah. It is astounding. And I think that it's really interesting to consider. And that's something really important to take stock of when thinking about whether to use TikTok or Instagram. If you are trying to use an influencer, you get a lot more bang for your buck on TikTok.
67% of U.S. teenagers are regular TikTok users. So it's got 2/3 of all the teenagers.
Yep. And when you think about it too, just as time goes on, it'll probably be more and more as that generation starts to grow up and create social media accounts.
Yeah. Okay, cool. But there is some controversy with TikTok, right?
Absolutely. I think one that is really interesting is that 80% of revenue comes from China. So like we were saying earlier, it's not an automatic conversion, and it's not necessarily a platform that makes sense for most companies to be trying to aim for conversions on, because the US is still not where people are actually purchasing products off of this app. So that is something that's very important to be aware of. I've definitely seen both sides of trying to run a traffic campaign for a client and it going extremely well, and then trying to run conversions and it just is not happening from the US.
So when you say, 80% of the revenue that's generated within TikTok is coming from purchases in China. Is that right?
Yeah.
So China sounds like they trust it, makes sense. It's
right.
It's was originated, created, born there. That means 20% is coming from the rest of the world. So imagine this very, very low conversions for US.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So that's the downside for marketers. That probably will increase, provided that our government doesn't ban it, which it's attempting to do now. But before we get into that, talk about this interesting Tarte Cosmetics example.
Yeah, definitely. So Tarte Cosmetics is a makeup company, and a lot of makeup companies do huge influencer trips, but this one was just really, a lot of people thought it was out of touch. So they flew a ton of influencers out to Dubai. I think for reference, the flight is about $20,000. So it was a lot of money they were spending on this, and then just flew them out to talk about the products, have this all expenses paid vacation. And a lot of people felt like it was just not genuine, that it was just kind of a waste of the brand's budget.
So they missed on TikTok because the demands for authenticity on TikTok is
much higher.
Much higher. Okay. Let's get into some of the politics of TikTok. So currently India has permanently banned it, right? And perceives it as a national security threat to both data privacy and cybersecurity. The Afghanistan government's banned TikTok starting in 2022. When that was done by the Taliban, said the restriction was to prevent misinformation among the youth. So, you could argue with that, I guess. Pakistan, Bangladesh, Indonesia previously blocked TikTok, but have recently restored access. So, there's some censorships going on in other parts of the country. A lot of concerns over TikTok and its potential direct data access by the Chinese government and how they would use that. So, what do you think is going to happen with TikTok? Is it going to stick around? What's going to happen?
I think it is. I hope it is. I'm a big TikTok fan. I think that it's being re-examined in the United States as well as a lot of other countries. But it's interesting to see that some of the countries, even that had previously banned TikTok, actually brought it back after a time. So I think that it is one of those things where it's not necessarily a security risk. It is just being perceived as one because of its connection with the Chinese government. And I wonder if it is actually more of a risk than any other social media platform.
Well, yeah, I think they all have their inherent risks, but I think because this data can be mined by the Chinese government, that's the big concern with our government officials. Marco Rubio is really leading a charge to ban it here in the U.S. There may be some obstacles in the way. I'm reading. So, but currently it's on a trajectory like a hit song. Let me tell you.
Yeah, it is really interesting too, because it seems like a lot of the concern is with location tracking, which definitely is a feature of pretty much every other social media app as well. The bigger issue is just that this data gets reported back to the Chinese government. So a lot of universities have blocked it from their campuses, but people have not stopped using it at all. And in fact, what they've done is just turn their Wi-Fi off and then go on their data to be able to watch TikTok videos. So I wonder if there will be some sort of protection where maybe it's not required to use Wi-Fi with the app, or if we are able to turn off some sort of location tracking with the app. But I don't see the app just going away. Well, it'll be interesting. In March, the TikTok CEO is going to testify before the House committee. So I think that will be really illuminating to see what their perspective of it is and what information they're actually gathering from the app.
So that's in 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So we'll know more then.
It'll be interesting. Okay.
Yeah, very timely.
So where do we see TikTok going in the future, Mackenzie?
Yes, it's really interesting because despite all the controversy and despite the political aspect of this and, the calls to block the TikTok app from the United States, marketers are pouring more and more money into it. So it doesn't seem like it's going away anytime soon from an advertising or marketing perspective.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, we've got some notes here saying that marketers just keep pouring money into it.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, because the reason for that is that consumers don't seem to be affected by the political nature of the app, and they don't seem to be particularly concerned about the usage of their data. I think it's because when you think of it on an individual basis, you kind of think like, what's China going to do with my data specifically? Like, if China knows where I am right now,
Right.
That's fine. So I think a lot of people have that perspective for themselves individually, and then that makes consumers as a whole less concerned with the issue than politicians might be.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Individually, how much value does data have? But collectively,
Right.
with big data
Yeah.
and AI, I think that's where the concern of the government comes in. It does hit the sweet spot too of a really coveted demographic, and that's Gen Zs. So it looks like probably conservatively saying, I think 50% of the users are Gen Zs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's a huge number.
It is a huge number, and I wonder if that's part of the conversion issue as well, is that Gen Z are not typically the demographic with the buying power.
Yeah, but most brands, up and coming brands, new brands, they want to get them in young. They
Yep.
want to get them to be brand loyalists and really move from there. So it makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So currently, TikTok's owned by ByteDance. They look like they're going to do some changes to the back end of the app, keep all the data here in the U.S., and they may survive this current storm. So moving forward, let's say they do survive and they just continue on their trajectory, getting stronger and stronger. How do you see marketers utilizing, considering that you get a lot of engagement, a ton of engagement, more than any other platform?
Yep.
You probably have more users in that younger Gen Z millennial demographic than any other platform. But the conversions are non-existent, right?
Right. Yeah, I wonder if that will change going forward. If Gen Z is the demographic that's most likely to use TikTok, they clearly trust the app. They don't feel that there are any, security risks or that they are being used for their data in any way. So I wonder if as Gen Z takes over the app and then becomes a generation with more buying power, they will be purchasing from TikTok like we do from Instagram or Facebook. I wonder if some of it is the comfortability of growing up with Instagram and Facebook, so you automatically trust them whether you should or not. And TikTok, if someone's growing up with TikTok, they probably feel the same way.
Yeah, good points there. Yeah. Well, how does it, what kind of conversions are we seeing with Instagram?
Yeah, I think
Because it's a very similar app. I mean, it
yeah.
just doesn't have the algorithm, right, that a TikTok has.
It's really interesting because Instagram is way more expensive to use as a marketer because there's so much competition. And TikTok probably will become the same with time. But right now, because Facebook and Instagram have been around for so long and are so popular with the buying demographic, it costs more to get in front of your audience, but you are more likely to convert. Whereas TikTok, it is very inexpensive to get in front of your audience, but they're less likely to convert. And it's really interesting too, because TikTok can really target you in ways that Instagram and Facebook cannot, because they're receiving so much data back from you in terms of what you're interested in, what topics, what brands, what products that really can't be matched on other platforms. So it'll be interesting to see how their e-commerce side really grows and develops over the years, because that's some really specific targeting.
That's an interesting concept. So, you think they're going to get better and better at their targeting and their conversions will rise. It's inexpensive to get that brand recognition, right? So maybe they're converting in other platforms. I have some clients currently that I think from a branding perspective, pure brand campaigns,
right?
TikTok makes a lot of sense.
Yes, that, and I've also had more success with boosting TikToks for whatever reason than creating TikTok ads, because I think that like any other platform, this would be kind of my advice for someone who's dipping their toe into paid ads, but not really sure if they want to go full force with the whole ad campaign. But on TikTok, like any other platform, you can see what video is already doing well and resonating with your organic audience. And then you can boost that video because you've already kind of gotten some feedback there. And that can be a lower risk way to engage with your audience and spend a bit of money, but know that it's going to have a better return.
So when you say boost, what is that? Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, so with ads, and this is similar to a lot of different social platforms, but with ads, you can build out a campaign with new creative assets. And those are things that you haven't really tested yet. So these are creatives, copy, etc., that you're putting out for the first time and you're targeting specifically people with. With boosting, it's content that you've already put out organically, and then you're targeting that content to your audience. So you are selecting that, okay, this is the video that worked well, our organic audience loved it, and now we want to boost it to more people, meaning that you put money behind it like an ad, but it's the same concept and the same post that you've been using organically.
Excellent. All right. Any challenges you see in integrating these into marketing campaigns?
I think what is interesting to note about TikTok is that you can't necessarily use the same creative that you used on other platforms. And I know that for a lot of the other platforms, it's really easy to repurpose. So if you post something on Facebook, you can put it on Instagram, you could put it on Twitter, maybe LinkedIn, depending on the content. But TikTok is its own beast. And so TikTok content has to be created specifically for TikTok. It has to be organic, it has to be user generated, it has to be a lot more casual and direct in a way that other content on other platforms doesn't have to be.
So that's interesting. So you wouldn't recommend to run the same content on Instagram that you would on TikTok?
Yeah, it is interesting because we've had to do that for a couple clients where they're like, oh, you already have creative from these other campaigns. Can't you just repurpose it? But you really can't, because TikTok users are very savvy. They want something authentic. There's a particular humor and cadence that comes across on TikTok that doesn't really come across on other platforms. And people don't really want to see professionalism as much on TikTok. They want to see entertainment and relatability.
Wow. Okay. Is aside from that, the style and the tone, is the formatting the same? It would be generally, right?
The formatting is similar. Yeah. I mean, every platform has different, obviously, size dimensions that it requires. TikTok, it's kind of the same where you just want high quality video, high quality content, and they're actually integrating a lot more photos into the app as well. So that's now an option as well as video.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to continue to see TikTok grow, and we're going to use it more and more in the agency for campaigns, particularly branding campaigns, until we see the conversions improve, which is always nice for clients when they can count on something to convert. But branding and reaching, your audience is very, I think, what should I say, undervalued on TikTok right now. So I think it's a good way to reach that audience and maybe market to them on other platforms where they're gonna see this continuous message and really get exposed to your brand. So
yeah, and I think a good example that everyone kind of uses is Duolingo and how they use the owl in order to kind of get across their brand personality. So I think that it's not like they were trying to sell Duolingo through that, but they got so much engagement, so much brand recognition, so much traffic just from the fact that they had a likable avatar. So I think that's kind of an example of what you can do on TikTok.
That's funny because Duolingo, I didn't know anything about Duolingo about 5 days ago. Now I keep hearing Duolingo. I have family members that are using it. Come to find out, they're learning languages, and I had no idea. So yeah, what a great example.
It is. And I think the thing too is that maybe some of those conversions happen later. So maybe you hear about the brand, you're like, oh, these videos are kind of funny. You start watching, you start following. And then a couple weeks later, you think, oh, it'd be cool to know Spanish. And then that's where you go because it's in your head.
Yeah, I think that's how these campaigns work. That's the dynamics. It's human psychology. So I think you're really bringing up some good points there. Well, let's wrap it up right there, Mackenzie. This has been great. We miss Kate, but we're going to do some more of these before Kate comes back, and that'll be fun for her too to get to see her show moving on.
Yep, absolutely. Kate, we miss you, but we're so excited for Maeve.
Yep, absolutely. Okay. Thanks, Mackenzie.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Adapt and Thrive, a survival guide for the modern marketer. If you liked what you've heard, subscribe and drop a comment on what topics you'd like to hear in future episodes. Good luck out there, marketers. Until next time.